everyone, it's Niamh here and welcome back to my channel. Today, as part of our Collage Fundamentals series, we're going to be looking at 3D collage, which is called assemblage. Now, assemblage is getting a group of items together, usually based around a theme. They can be 2D pieces of paper, ephemera, they can be 3D like a metal frame and wooden blocks. They're usually put together on some sort of substrate, whether that be a shadow box, a piece of wood, a canvas, could be freestanding, but basically collaging a group of things together, usually based on a theme. So this assemblage piece is based on the theme of Moulin Rouge, and I came up with that theme based on that image in the front that you saw with the fashion figure. Now the figure itself the drawing came from James Burke Creative, and I'll put a link to his Facebook page and his Facebook group that this image came from in the description. While looking at that, it really reminded me, the statuesque figure reminded me of sateen, and that's where the ideas for this came off. So the important thing to doing assemblage is, once you come up with your theme, is to go through your stash and just grab out a whole heap of stuff that you think will go. And that's what I've done in this box. So I started out with some red paints because I wanted that rich red colour. I had the black gesso, some foam board because I knew I needed to lift some up. Found some bits and pieces that I actually had from Moulin Rouge. The sandpaper to sand stuff down. That's a piece of mica. Some book text. It's actually to do with Scotland, but I had it there and I had a bit of a map. These beautiful postcards and images of the Eiffel Tower that were from an old Australian company called Collections. Some old tickets. The picture again of a German person, but I thought it reminded me of the lead character who was the writer with his hat there. Some lace with buttons on it reminded me of sort of the corset and the highly fashion figures. This is a piece of German scrap in the gold. One of Tim Holtz's paper dolls. The diamonds, stick on diamonds, because Diamond in the Rough is one of the songs from the movie. Some text stamps, that beautiful gold frame. Those are the original size postcards. These are two Polaroid type pictures from Typo. These were some frames, again from Ideology, that I thought I might be able to use. The pictures in the back I actually hadn't cleared out of the tray, so they weren't anything to do with it. So I decided the substrate I was going to use was the box from Tim Holtz, and this was the arrangement I was going to put them in. So I have the two larger boxes down the bottom, two smaller boxes at the top, that open space in the middle to play with, and obviously the larger box as my substrate base. Now, I got together all this stuff for my collage, and it was great having it here. Oh, sorry, I've also got some of the Tim Holtz tissue, the one with the butterfly and the architecture and the text, because I thought there was a lot of images there that I could use. This is the image from James Burke Creative, the original image that he gave for everyone to download, and you could do with what you would with that. These are also from Tim Holtz Ideology, and they're the typeface blocks that I knew I wanted to use. So I've spread all this up. I've basically got my base board, and I've cut strips of the tissue paper. I'm just using matte gel medium to glue it down around 3 of the edges, because I knew I was going to put the boxes along the bottom like that, and I didn't need to have anything underneath them. Now what I'm going to do is paint my boxes. So I wanted the inside of the boxes to be that rich red colour and the outside to be black. So when I think of Moulin Rouge, and if you think of the movie, it's got that very rich red, almost that red velvet feel from the curtains. You've got the black, and you've got lots of golds, and that's what I wanted to replicate in this assemblage piece. So having a strong idea of your theme and your colour palette, it really helps you when you're doing this process. It's a funny old process, because while you've kind of got your theme and you've got the collage pieces there, and you've kind of got an idea in your head of what you want to do, there still is a lot of leeway on how it all goes together, and you'll see that throughout this process. While I start out wanting to use these boxes and painting them all up, I don't necessarily use them all at the end. So you've got the idea, but there's still a lot of flexibility in what you're doing. Now I'm using the black gesso from Dina Wakley. If you haven't come across this, it's the most amazing paint. It dries really quickly, it's very, very matte, and it's very, very opaque. It's one of the best black gessos I've ever come across, and I'd highly recommend it. The other thing I was really surprised about, this is the first time I've used these boxes from Tim Holtz, and they take paint surprisingly well. I didn't have to do too many coats to get these covered to a way that was going to work really well. So as I'm going along, I'm sort of thinking about what I'm going to do and how it's going to go together. At this stage, I'm just painting a piece of the black foam board just in case any of the foam that I have is going to be seen. So I'll talk about that as I put the collage together. But it's really important when you're doing pieces like this, or collage pieces, if you've got edges that you're going to see, to cover them up. Now this is just putting down the collage a little bit just to get an idea of what I wanted in my box. So I'm going along with my sandpaper now and sanding off the excess. The reason I'm sanding it off is I could get my craft knife out, but I've got a likelihood to actually cut into the box and damage it in some way. By sanding it off, you are less likely to do that. So this is a glimmer glaze from Tattered Angels, which is a really beautiful burgundy colour. And the reason I chose the glimmer glaze is because it's a very translucent glaze that goes over. I didn't want an opaque acrylic paint. I wanted to see the text and all the images in the background, but I still want a rich colour, but I wanted to see through it. So this is a really good alternative. Now you can see here I'm also painting that glimmer glaze over the red paint, the red acrylic paint I've got, and again that's just deepening that colour and giving it that richness. So this will be seen and in the final product, so I wanted to have that richness to it. I don't mind that you can see sort of some of the streaks in it. It gives that bit of texture and gives some darkness and light and shade to what you're doing. Now I'm just using a black permanent marker around the edges to highlight that. These are the images that I've used. The original on the craft sheet is what I started out with. I then printed it out and watercolored it, and finally I scanned it into my computer and printed it out on computer laser printer transparency, because I knew I wanted a see-through image. That took a lot of playing with, so if you do get that, make sure you get a few extra pieces just to play with. So you can see here I haven't cut it out. I'm just laying it over the top to see what I can see, what I won't see. While playing with this, I decided that I didn't actually want to have the boxes. I want to have a bit more area to play with. But I woke up with this idea that I really wanted to have those sorts of marquee lights, and I had an old Heidi Swap range of lights that I wanted to and I thought they'd be perfect to use. Now I'm going to apologise now. I haven't measured any of this. This is just me playing with the foam and seeing what works, and I got a phone call halfway through and the video actually cut out. I didn't realise when you answer a phone that your video cuts out, so I do apologise. But basically it was just playing along with creating a box, measuring out where I wanted the marquee lights to come through. I'm just cutting a hole in the back so that I can feed the lights through, and I can glue the box on the outside so you can actually turn them on and off. I was for a stage considering having that inside the box until I realised that it would be near impossible, one, to turn the lights on and off, and two, to change the batteries. So that does need to come through from the back. The reason the marquee lights for this worked really well is, one, they had those globe lights that reminded me of a theatre, but also because there's only 10 on the strand, I didn't need a ridiculous amount of lights to do this. I only needed a few. So as I was doing this, I was playing around with the letters because I wanted to have the letters go across the bottom, and they didn't quite work, so I knew I had to lift those up into 2 rows. So I'm starting off with a piece of foam in the back. I'm just colouring it black on the background because you can see some of that white from the back, and I wanted to have it all black. Easier to do it before you glue everything down. What I'm doing is using the foam to create a bit of a shelf. So by having the piece of foam at the back, that's going to create a shelf that I can put the piece on top. It also allowed me to create the uplights that you can see in this image. So to see how this piece was finished off and put together, please click on the next link to part 2. Thanks for watching.